welcome to All Night ASMR. I'm your host, Robert Knight, and tonight I want to take a moment to start out to acknowledge what's going on in the world. This is by no means a political channel. This is all content to make you relax. So feels kind of inappropriate to put that here. But with so much going on in the world that falls under what's political, it's hard not to acknowledge it, and it feels a little bit irresponsible. So I want to start out by saying that while you won't find that content here, there are really important things to be said, and I want to really make sure that my voice is part of that conversation. I feel like it's my duty to do that. So you will find that content on the Ants Studio channel as it comes out. There's nothing there yet with the exception of a film I made last fall that you can find there. And it is very politically charged. So if you are seeking that sort of thing out, you can look for it there. Even though I'm using a different channel to make my voice heard and keeping things lighter here, I do want to say that if you're in a part of the world that is being affected by what's going on, you deserve peace, and you deserve a place to stay, a home, and safety. And I will make sure that I do my part to ensure that, as humble as my options are, my heart really goes out to you. And that's the most I'll say on it here. Tonight's theme is going to be somewhat related, but is notably lighter. Remember to stay tuned to the end of this video for this week's secret code as well. As I've mentioned on this channel before, I am really into language. I've loved learning languages. It's been a passion of mine ever since I was a little kid. And mostly I've kept that in a pretty tight bubble. I learned French. I wasn't super enthused about it, but it wasn't bad. Didn't really have many options as far as what I could learn in grade school. But I also took it upon myself to start learning Portuguese when I was 15, and then later Hungarian, and then later German, and then later I threw all of that to the side to try and learn Japanese before going back to Portuguese because it was much simpler. But somewhere along the line, in the last 5 years or so, I was approached by someone who speaks Farsi and was wanting to learn English. And I had no idea about anything to do about Farsi or Iran, where it's primarily spoken. But I became friends with this person, and it opened up an entire world of Persian culture And I think the coolest thing that I've found in that is Persian writing and poetry. Also, their food, which is a completely different video. But tonight I want to just do a little bit of show and tell, talk about some of the poetry and authors that I have read and enjoy from Iran, and maybe gives you some ideas to check some people out. So first, I want to start with Faroe Farrokhzad, and I have two books of her poetry here. Let Us Believe in the Beginning of the Cold Season, and Another Birth, and other poems. She has such a good voice for poetry. And this friend that I mentioned first brought her to my attention because of Faro's love poems. But I think the thing that struck me, well, there are two things that really struck me about the way that she writes. One is she has such vivid imagery in her poems, but it's not necessarily imagery of a scene or a setting. It's imagery of emotions and feelings, and she really shows a beautiful contrast between the different facets of a feeling. So the first poem that I read of hers is one called On Loving, and it is about love. But also within that poem, there's a lot of description of the pain that comes along with loving someone, how frantic it can feel, how it can feel like this burning desire or a burning pain, how it makes you feel sometimes like it's just hopeless or listless. And that just immediately caught my attention. But even when she's not talking about love, and she does have plenty of poems that aren't about love, she just really, really knows how to capture a unique depiction of emotions and what she's going through, whether it's something monotonous or something comfortable or something new or a change or anything. It just is astonishing. Sadly, she was killed in a car accident at 32 years old in 1967. Yeah. But oh gosh, her poems are so good. It's funny. I once had a friend who just offhandedly was like, poetry is kind of boring because it's all just poems about love. And I didn't say anything because I would have just kind of, I would have rambled on forever if I had said something. But inside my head, I was like, that is definitely not the case. And if you want a poet who shows you the breadth of what poetry can be, she's one of them. Also, Faroe Farrokhzad was a filmmaker too. She directed one film, a 20-minute short called The House is Black, where she spent some time filming and studying a leper colony in Iran. And it really kind of follows that same theme, that's sort of a trail throughout her work of showing contrast. The whole movie, you see the struggles that these people go through in their daily lives and how outcast they are, but still somehow, finding peaceful lives and smiles and laughter. And you see it in contrast with the dialogue, which is all just her reciting her poetry. There's no dialogue from anyone you see on screen. It's all just voiceover of her reading her poetry. And I thought it was very beautiful and really spoke to the themes that she was trying to do. But going back to my movie on the Ant Studio channel, that movie specifically was an inspiration for my short film and how it shows that contrast. And I'm proud of my own work, but I'm also proud that it was influenced by someone that, even though I haven't known her writing for a long time, has been such a profound influence on me creatively. I think it's something really special. Hello, everyone, and welcome to All Night ASMR. Next, we have what you may be a little more familiar with. This is Persepolis and Persepolis 2 by Marjane Satrapi, or Satrapi. I always get the name wrong. Sorry if you ever watch this. These books, actually here, I think, at one point were banned. Frankly, I wouldn't be surprised if they get banned again. But it is a story of a girl. From my understanding, it's semi-autobiographical, who grows up in Iran around the time of the Islamic Revolution. And it's a story about how she grows up and finds herself and, goes back and forth with connections to where she's from and her family. And I think it's a really sweet story. And frankly, honestly, I love two things about this. One, the art is just so cool and high contrast. And sometimes it's goofy, but sometimes it's very serious. But you get pages like this one, oh, that's going to be out of focus, but it's so unique, and I think it's just really fun. I also like that, through the story, she's a little bit rebellious, a little bit punk rock. I, not to age myself, grew up a little after when all this takes place, but it did kind of remind me of some of my own parallels, being someone who got kind of into not really an Iron Maiden phase, which is the band she ends up really liking, but as a teenager, I really got into Dead Kennedys and Crass and Bad Religion, and I don't know. I guess that part of it just kind of is a string through any punks of the era. And then last, we are going to be going to the epic, one of the most famous and well-respected poems of the Persian library. This is Ferdowsi's The Shahnameh, or Name of the King. And it is an epic poem. If you're not familiar, think like, like Homer, the Odyssey. But was written, I want to say, over the course of like 30 years by Ferdowsi. And the thing that's really cool about it, I can't really speak to this from experience, but it is all written in, good iambic pentameter and stays consistent with its rhyming patterns all the way through. This is a big book. Like, let's see. Oh, wow, there's a lot in here. Yeah, 600 pages. Very impressive. And this is not something that I've actually really gotten very far into yet, but is important to me because as a filmmaker, I've made it my goal to one day, my dream project is to do an adaptation of an epic poem. And I feel like the Shahnameh has potential to be a good choice for that. I mean, obviously I still need to vet it, but kind of my vision is to have something that is very music heavy, which is a departure from anything I've done in film. I typically am very like minimal or very selective with soundtracks, but for one thing, that makes it a great challenge for me as a filmmaker to step out of my own comfort zone. But also I feel like there's a real cool potential there to like have something that has a little bit of a beat, a little bit more pronounced rhythm through the narrative, where you kind of get an homage to Ferdowsi's talent in how he wrote this book. And that's Persian literature. There's so much more that I haven't mentioned. And I'm sure, if you are a little bit more familiar with Persian literature or people like Rumi, or Shams of Tabriz, you probably have some background yourself. I know at one point, and well, this is a while now, but some of you may also be familiar with things like the Rubaiyat and stuff like that. So there's a lot we didn't cover, but frankly, there's a lot that I still have yet to learn about Persian poetry and Persian literature. But at least in this part of the world, in the US, it's not something that is necessarily really available. And it's not unavailable, but it's not something that you see lots of people talk about. Usually if people are talking about Iran, sadly, they're not always talking about this absolute wealth of creativity that's been there for centuries. It's really a shame. So if you're not familiar with any of those things, if you like poetry, I would definitely recommend checking out some Persian poets. If you like reading banned books, I would definitely check out Persepolis. And this is all not even mentioning the wealth of Persian cinema or Persian cuisine or their tapestries or their inventions or anything else. Like I probably could. In fact, you know what? Maybe I will do some more videos. Not going to get into any of those subjects tonight, but maybe we'll do some more structured videos where I do deep dives into some of these things if you're interested. If you would like suggestions or things you're curious about, you can put a comment right below the like button on this video. And for this week's secret message, we are going to use the evil eye. I don't even know if that's an emoji, so if it's not, just put one eye. But thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Please feel welcome to check out any of my other content on this channel or the Ant Studio channel. Patreon and Ko-Fi links are still coming, but hopefully those will be up soon. And thank you all for watching. Please stay safe and have a good night.